Your Harley is leaving power, money, and reliability on the table, and most of it is by design. Riders spend thousands at dealers chasing issues that were factory compromises, not real failures. After years working on these bikes, I am breaking down 17 garage-level tricks to improve performance, protect the engine, and cut costs. We are counting down to number 1, and the final fix is the cheapest one dealers never mention. Number 17, the 60-second self-diagnostic that reads your own trouble codes. Before you spend a dime, learn to ask the bike what's wrong. Every Harley with a digital odometer has a hidden diagnostic mode built right into the speedometer, and the dealer charges you $100 to $150 just to plug in and read it. You can do it for free. Hold the trip reset button, turn the ignition to the ignition position without starting, keep holding until you see Diag appear, then click through the modules: engine, ABS, security, instruments. Any stored fault codes will scroll right there on your own gauge. A customer brought me a Street Glide convinced he needed a $900 sensor harness. We pulled the codes in under a minute. It was a single loose ground. Knowing how to read your own bike is the foundation for everything else on this list, because you can't fix what you can't see. But reading codes only tells you what already broke. The next trick stops the most expensive failure on the whole platform before it ever starts. But the next entry adds a completely new layer to this. Number 16, the cam chain tensioner upgrade that saves your entire engine. If you ride a twin cam, anything from 1999 to 2016, your engine has a ticking time bomb in the cam chest. Harley used spring-loaded plastic tensioner shoes that ride directly on the cam chains, and they wear out. When they go, they shed plastic and metal into your oil, choke the oil pump, and on the worst day of your life, kill the entire motor. The factory service manual never even tells you to inspect them. The forbidden move is to get ahead of it. Pull the cam cover and check shoe thickness against the 0.060-inch wear limit. Or just convert to the hydraulic tensioner and high-flow oil pump setup the way the later bikes came from the factory. A worn-out tensioner that grenades the engine is a brand new motor, $5,000 to $8,000. The hydraulic conversion runs a few $100s in parts. One rider I know caught his at 27,000 miles with the inner shoe about to shred and yellow plastic flakes already in his oil. He got lucky. Don't count on luck. You just saved the engine, now let's stop it from cooking itself alive in traffic. If that already surprised you, this one pushes it further. Number 15, the parade mode trick that cools your rear cylinder at every stoplight. Here is one built into Harley bikes, but it is almost never explained. Your rear cylinder runs dramatically hotter than the front because it sits buried behind the front jug with no airflow. On most fuel-injected models, there is a feature called ITMS, Engine Idle Temperature Management System, what old-timers call parade mode. When it is on and the engine climbs past roughly 284 degrees Fahrenheit at a stop, the bike shuts off the rear cylinder's fuel injector so it pumps cool air instead of making heat. To toggle it on a throttle-by-wire bike, sit at idle, then roll the throttle forward and hold it. You will feel the idle cadence change, and maybe catch a different exhaust smell. That is normal. That means it is working. In stop-and-go summer traffic, this is the difference between a comfortable ride and roasting your right leg, while the rear head climbs past 350 degrees Fahrenheit. It costs nothing, and it is already in your bike. The engine is cooler, but it is still breathing through the restriction the factory bolted on to keep your neighbors happy. And just when it feels predictable, this entry flips the script. Number 14, the stock airbox breather fix that beats a $400 intake. Riders love throwing money at chrome high-flow intakes, but here is the secret the aftermarket won't tell you. The biggest restriction on a stock Harley intake usually isn't the filter, it is the breather system dumping hot, oily crankcase air right back into your throttle body. That oily air is oxygen depleted and bakes carbon onto your intake. Adding a proper external breather system or running a quality high-flow element in a stock-style backing plate gets you cool, clean, oxygen-rich air without the price tag. A $50 to $80 breather and filter setup on a customer's Road Glide gave him crisper throttle response that his buddy's $400 cone intake couldn't match. His buddy was sucking hot engine air the whole time. Quick favor, if these are saving you money, hit subscribe right now so the next episode finds you. Now, your bike's breathing clean, but the computer is still running the fuel map the EPA wrote, not the one your engine wants. But the next example might shock you. Number 13. The closed-loop fueling correction nobody mentions. Modern Harleys run lean from the factory, deliberately to pass emissions. Lean means hot, and hot means a snatchy throttle, deceleration popping, and that surging hesitation at small throttle openings. The forbidden fix is not always a full intake and exhaust build. It is correcting the fuel map with a tuner so your air-fuel ratio actually matches your engine. A PowerVision or similar handheld lets you load a corrected map or run an auto-tune from your own riding data. A customer's Softail surged so badly at steady cruise, he thought the throttle was failing. A corrected map smoothed it out completely, and it dropped his cylinder head temperatures in the process. Dealer drivability diagnostics cost $200 and up, often with no real fix. A tuner you keep forever costs a few $100s, and it pays for itself the first time you change anything else on the bike. Here's the honest catch, and write this down. Every time you open up the intake or the exhaust, you have to retune, or you will be running even leaner and hotter than stock. Speaking of heat hiding in plain sight, your spark is fighting a losing battle against corroded grounds, but here comes the twist. Number 12. The ground and charging check that fixes mystery electrical gremlins. Harleys are notorious for electrical weirdness, hard starts, dim lights, a no-reason check engine light, and 9 times out of 10 it traces back to a tired ground or a failing stator, not the expensive part the dealer wants to sell you. Grab that multimeter. With the engine running, put it across the battery terminals. You want to see roughly 13.5 to 14.5 volts. If it drops below 13 volts, your charging system is the culprit, usually the stator buried in the primary. While you are there, clean and tighten your main engine to frame ground. Corrosion there mimics a dozen sensor faults. A rider came to me sure he needed a new ECM after a $350 electrical diagnostic quote. Bad ground strap, 10 minutes with a wire brush and a wrench. Give your electrical system a clean path and half your gremlins disappear. Now the spark's strong, but on a twin cam, there is a clunk you keep ignoring that's quietly eating your driveline. Now things start to change. Number 11. The compensator inspection that explains that startup clunk. That metallic clunk you hear on cold startup, or when you roll on and off the throttle at low RPM. On 2007 to 2010 era, big twins especially, that is almost always the compensator, a spring-loaded shock absorber on the engine sprocket that wears out because the early design was not sized for the torque the bigger motors made. The trick is to diagnose it before it strands you. Start the bike, pull the clutch, drop it into gear, and listen for that clunk at idle. Catch it early, and an upgraded compensator is a manageable few $100 job. Ignore it and you are into primary damage and a tow. One Road King owner kept blaming his loose exhaust for a year. It was the compensator the whole time, and waiting turned a simple part swap into a teardown. The drive line is tight now, so let's talk about the heat you can pull out of the bike for free. And then this happens. Number 10. The thigh shield removal that drops engine temps for nothing. This one's pure free horsepower by temperature. On twin cam and Milwaukee 8 touring bikes, those lower fairing or thigh deflectors trap a swirl of hot air around the rear cylinder with nowhere to escape. Pull the left side shield and you give that superheated air a fast exit path right past the hottest part of the engine. The result is a measurably cooler running motor overall, especially in slow traffic or high ambient heat. A cooler engine does not have to pull ignition timing to fight knock or heat soak, so it actually makes closer to its rated power instead of constantly protecting itself. It looks slightly asymmetric, but in real riding conditions, nobody sees both sides at once, and the airflow benefit outweighs the visual trade-off. Cost, $0, plus a screwdriver and a few minutes. A cooler engine is a happier engine, but cooler oil matters even more, and that is where the factory lifetime myth starts to bite you the longer the miles stack up. Now watch what happens next. Number 9. The real oil change interval the dealer won't push. Harley dry sump engines live and die by clean oil, and that minimal maintenance image the brand sells you is exactly how high-mileage bikes end up with sludged cam chests and worn tensioners. The forbidden truth is simple. Change your oil and filter every 5,000 miles or once a year, period, with a quality synthetic, not the stretched intervals that look great in the brochure and terrible at teardown. Pull your dipstick. Amber to brown is healthy. Black sludge or any metallic glitter is your engine screaming. A $40 oil change on schedule is the cheapest insurance against every expensive failure already on this list. Drop a comment below. What's your oil interval? I read them. Clean oil keeps the bottom end alive. Number 8. The transport mode and pin trick that saves you from a dead fob. But there is a security feature up top that strands more riders than any mechanical fault. And the next entry proves the point perfectly. Picture this. Your key fob battery dies in a parking lot, the security system will not disarm, and the dealer wants a tow and a service appointment. The forbidden knowledge is your 5-digit PIN and transport mode, both built into the bike. With the fob present, you can enter transport mode, ignition on, then a turn signal sequence until you hear a single chirp, allowing the bike to be moved or trailered with the alarm temporarily suppressed while still keeping core immobilizer logic intact. And if the fob is fully dead, you can enter your stored PIN using the turn signal switches to override the immobilizer and disarm the system, letting you start the bike and ride home instead of waiting for recovery. A buddy nearly paid for a flatbed over a $3 CR2032 battery because he never set or practiced his PIN entry sequence. Learn it before you need it, and keep fresh fob batteries on hand as cheap insurance. While we are in the electronics, there is a chirp that is driving half of you crazy, and this next one explains why. Number 7. The siren chirp mode toggle. If you have the factory or an added security siren, that double chirp every time you arm and disarm gets old fast, and at a quiet motel, it basically announces your bike to everyone in the parking lot. There is a practical bonus many riders overlook. At cheap roadside motels, where you park right outside the room, signal range can sometimes keep the fob and the bike in a semi-awake state if you are close enough to interfere with the lock cycle, wrapping the fob in aluminum foil, or storing it in a basic signal blocking pouch prevents accidental arming or disarming and removes any chance of unintended signal interaction overnight. It is a simple, low-tech safeguard that costs almost nothing but eliminates a very real convenience-based vulnerability. Now back to performance, because once the security quirks are handled, your throttle response might still be the laziest thing on the bike. And that leads us directly to the next example. Number 6. The throttle-by-wire relearn that sharpens response. Newer Harleys use throttle-by-wire, and after a battery disconnect, a tune, or just years of gentle riding, the throttle can feel disconnected and lazy. The fix is a proper throttle position sensor relearn, so the engine control module remaps the pedal to engine relationship and recalibrates what 0 and full actually feel like at the grip. After any battery work, do the idle relearn. Let the bike idle untouched until it fully stabilizes, allowing the engine control unit to re-establish baseline airflow and fueling targets. Then take an assertive ride so it adapts to real load, real throttle inputs, and real road conditions instead of low-load parking lot behavior. A customer swore his Sportster lost power after a battery swap. Nothing was wrong mechanically. It simply had not relearned its throttle behavior and felt dulled as a result. Free, quick, and it often makes the bike feel noticeably more responsive again. But once throttle response is restored, sharper inputs expose the next weak link, a clutch that feels vague, inconsistent, or slippy because of one simple, often neglected adjustment point. And this is where things get fascinating. Number 5. The clutch and cable adjustment that fixes hard shifting. If your Harley clunks into first, fights you finding neutral, or the lever feels like it is pulling through sand, you do not need a new clutch. You need the free play set right. The forbidden detail most owners miss is that there is both a cable adjustment and, on cable clutch bikes, an internal clutch adjustment behind the derby cover, and they work together. Set the cable free play to spec, set the internal adjuster correctly, and a notchy, dragging clutch transforms into clean, quiet shifts. A rider paid a shop $200 chasing a transmission problem that was nothing but maladjusted free play, 20 minutes and 2 wrenches at home. A crisp clutch makes the bike feel new, but it cannot help you if you cannot stop, and your brakes are probably underperforming out of the box. And that brings us to the next discovery. Number 4. The brake bed in procedure. Harley never tells you to do. Fresh pads on a heavy touring bike feel weak and squeal because the pad material was never properly bedded into the rotor. Brake pads work by laying down an even transfer layer of friction material onto the disc, and that only happens under heat your normal commute never builds. On a safe, empty road, bring it up to a moderate speed and brake firmly down to a walking pace without locking up several times in a row, then ride a few minutes without dragging the brakes to let everything cool. You will smell it working. After that, the bite is sharp and immediate, with none of the squeal. You did not buy better brakes. You finished installing the ones you have for free. Strong brakes and a tight driveline mean nothing though if your front end is wandering because of one bolt nobody checks. Now we step into the next chapter of the list. Number 3. The fork and steering head check that cures highway wobble. That vague wandering feeling at speed, or a front end that wants to shake its head over bumps, usually isn't a tire. It's loose steering head bearings or mismatched fork settings. The trick is to put the front wheel in the air, grab the fork legs, and feel for any notch or play in the steering head. A tight, correctly torqued steering head transforms stability. While you're there, make sure both fork legs sit at equal height in the triple clamps and are set to the same air gap. A surprising number of handling problems are just one leg slightly off. A customer was about to buy new tires for a wobble that was nothing but a loose steering head nut. Free to check, cheap to fix, and it makes a heavy Harley feel planted. You've now got a bike that runs cool, shifts clean, stops hard, and tracks straight. There is one trick left, the cheapest, most overlooked thing on the entire list. Now we arrive at one of the most interesting examples. Number 2. The torque wrench habit that prevents the failures everyone else pays for. This isn't a part, it's a discipline, and it's forbidden only because it costs the dealer service revenue. Most catastrophic Harley problems on the road, such as leaking primary, weeping rocker boxes, a drain plug backing out, or a loose axle, trace back to fasteners that were never torqued to specification or were gorilla tightened by hand. A $40 torque wrench and the specification values for your drain plug, oil filter, axle, and pinch bolts will prevent more breakdowns than any performance part you can bolt on. One rider lost most of his primary fluid down the highway from a derby cover snugged by feel. Torque it right once, and you simply don't have those problems. It's the least glamorous trick here, and quietly, the most valuable. But there's one thing even cheaper that does more for how the bike feels than anything else, and it's number 1. Next, we look at a brand that quietly changed the game. Number 1. The friction modifier and fluid swap that frees up hidden horsepower. Here is the nuclear option that costs almost nothing and turns no performance wrench. Change what is actually inside your transmission and primary. Harley primaries and gearboxes ship with fluid that is effectively molasses. and a huge share of your engine's effort is wasted just churning through it. A parasitic loss you never see on a dyno, but feel at every shift. Switch your primary and transmission to a proper, full synthetic, motorcycle-specific fluid, and you recover power. The friction was stealing, easier clutch pull, cleaner neutral, quieter gear whine, and a noticeably freer revving feel off the line. A rider with a sluggish shifting dyna, who swapped to synthetic primary and transmission fluid, said it shifted like a brand new bike. Dealer fluid service, $300 and up. Doing it yourself with premium synthetic, under $100, one afternoon. It is the single best feel per dollar move you can make on a Harley, and the dealer would much rather sell you a $1,200 cam. Found value in this list? Hit subscribe and we will see you next time.